Hi, everyone. I'm Katey Rich, and this is the Prestige Junkie Podcast. Thank you for joining for this special early post-Emmys edition of the show. In a minute, I'll be joined by my anchor colleague, Elaine Low, to talk about everything that happened during last night's Emmys. And yes, we are still right at the start of Film Awards Season 2. Hours before the Emmys started, Toronto announced the winners of its People's Choice Awards. The top prize went to Mike Flanagan's The Life of Chuck. That movie doesn't even have a distributor yet. There's so much to talk about. I promise we will get back to it later this week in the newsletter, on the podcast next week. We'll get there. After Elaine and I catch up with the Emmys, you will hear my conversation with the star of one of those movies you will be hearing a lot about this season and the runner-up for the Toronto People's Choice Award. I talked to Karla Sofia Gascon, the star of Emilia Perez. It is a conversation that I promise you won't want to miss. But first, let's start with the Emmys. We talk about what Elaine saw at the very celebratory Disney after party, and then also what impact she thinks these awards will have on the development within Hollywood and what kind of shows they will actually want to make in the future. Spoiler alert, it's a little unclear, but there's a lot to talk about. Okay, Elaine, it's time to dig into last night's Emmys. We were both watching it from our houses, though you then got out to mix it up with some of the winners and the non-winners. I guess we'll talk about that. But I assume that you sat on your couch and gasped the same way I did when Hacks beat the Bear for Best Comedy Series.
It was one of those surprises where I was shocked, and then I was like, wait, should I be so shocked? It's a hilarious comedy about show business and about comedians that's definitely a laugh out loud funny comedy, and everybody loves it. So why am I so surprised?
Yeah. I don't think you talk to people, doing awards whisper campaigns the amount that I do, but I am betting you heard the same thing I did over the summer. A lot of people being like, is The Bear really a comedy? Are we really going to do this? Or like, that show doesn't have any jokes. And it was kind of a joke, unlike the, ones that are on The Bear, until it really wasn't. And as I'm like watching them take the stage, I'm like, wait, did that work? Did everyone just question whether The Bear was a comedy long enough that Hacks could win? Do you see any validity there?
It kind of felt like that. I feel like that was the natural conclusion of this months-long debate we've all been having, because I think that's something that's not only a conversation within the industry, but even just people who are watching, like, oh, that's classified as a comedy? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the within the industry question is so valid for the Emmys. The voting body for the Emmys is enormous. It's 25,000 people. And as I wrote about in the newsletter, like, a lot of these people have worked in television comedy for a long time. It's a form they really care about, even if they're, like lighting designers or whatever. And obviously they love The Bear. The Bear won a bunch of Emmys. Jeremy Allen White and Eben Moss-Bachrach are repeat victories. Liza Cole-Zayas, we can talk about her. So maybe it's just like a desire to spread the wealth, like an affection for this format and say, okay, The Bear does this well, Hacks does this well, we can give something to both of them.
Given the conversation, it almost feels appropriate that they got shouts for specific talent, but then when it came to, are we really going to call this a comedy, to wind up giving it to the show about comedians.
Yeah. And I also thought it was perfect that The Bear won for directing Christopher Storer, the show's creator, won for directing the Fishes episode, the extremely stressful, not at all funny Christmas episode, but really stylish. There's a lot going on with that. Whereas Hacks wins for writing, which is a show that's about comedy writing. Like, it seemed like each of them got to play to their strengths. And, the Emmys love a streak. Schitt's Creek won all of the top comedy categories not that long ago. So being able to spread it out a little bit feels like healthier to me as an award show ecosystem.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of spreading the wealth, it just felt like everybody got a little something yesterday. Like, there were concerns like, oh, is HBO going to get shut out? What's going to happen with Netflix? But no, HBO got a number of Hacks wins. They seemed real happy with that.
And then Jean Smart making a Max joke, which was very funny as she was trying to figure out what in the world her network is still called. And yes, Netflix got their thing with Elizabeth Debicki. You're totally right that business-wise, you were only at one after party, but I imagine every after party was not like a totally solemn experience.
I kept thinking about that. I was like, okay, I feel like every after party, no matter where you're going, they've got something to celebrate. HBO has Hacks. Over at Netflix, 4 wins for Baby Reindeer yesterday?
I think so.
Yeah, they had a good night.
And one for Ripley, which, Netflix having these 2 limited series contenders has been fascinating. I think they put all their chips on Ripley, this really beautiful prestige adaptation of a famous character. Andrew Scott really is on such a rise right now, and then Baby Reindeer comes out and is just this total surprise phenomenon. So Baby Reindeer wins a bunch of awards. Andrew Scott, he will get his due someday, I hope. But the directing win for Ripley, I just thought was so perfect for Steven Salian. That is such a gorgeous show. All credit to Baby Reindeer's direction, but I was just really glad they made room for that one in particular.
Yeah, again, it felt like there were individual little wins in there where it was like everybody was happy at the end of the night, whether it was talent or the overall shows or the streamers themselves.
Yeah. I mean, we should talk about the drama series, not to skip over it. Shogun won almost as many Emmys as everyone thought it would. Did you know that even going into the night from the Creative Arts Emmys,
it had already set the
record?
14 Emmys
crazy?
Going in, which is why when I saw that figure at the end of the night, when it was like, okay, they've won a record 18 Emmys, I was like, wait, did they really win that many tonight? And it's like, oh, right. Last week, add all the numbers up, and that makes sense. Although I will say, I don't know about you, but toward the end of the night, I was getting a little worried about Shogun. I was like, are they not going to dominate the way that everybody thought they would? But then it was bam, 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 picking up wins for, best actor, best actress, and then best drama. And I was like, oh, okay, this feels about right.
Yeah, it was something weird about the way that the supporting awards were really early in the night. And Billy Crudup, I think a lot of people thought would win for the morning show. Shogun had great actors nominated in supporting, but, he's won before. And then they didn't have anyone in supporting actress. So Elizabeth Debicki walks away with that. But then when Will Smith, the creator of Slow Horses, won for writing, I feel like that was where some of the nerves went.
The writer of Slow Horses.
being like a white British man named Will Smith is just setting you up for a lifetime of hello, I'm not, every restaurant reservation he ever makes, you just know that no one knows what to expect.
Poor man.
I know, but he had such good humor. And again, as I wrote, Slow Horses is so clever and twisty, and Shogun is brilliantly written. But if you're going to find a way to say, oh, we really love Slow Horses, we want to give it something, that was a great place to do it. Let Gary Oldman win another year when Hiroyuki Sanada is not just giving this towering performance in Shogun. I was really happy that Slow Horses found that spot, and then Shogun kind of rightly got the big prize at the end of the night.
Did it feel to you like a lot of those wins were just really well placed in that fashion for the rest of the night as well? Yes, this is the award that they should be picking up, for everybody who thought that The Bear wasn't a comedy. And it's like, okay, yeah, we'll give it to talent. For everybody that thought, hey, Slow Horses needs a win, this was the exact right place to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't say that a group of 25,000 people is we'll spread the wealth in exactly this way. Awards voting is so much more chaotic.
Everybody got their piece of the pie.
Totally. And so often the Emmys feel like they're well, we love the show, so we're going to check off it in every possible box. And so people whose performances may be fine are winning over much more interesting stuff on other shows. And this year, for whatever reason, it really felt this is where it excels in this way and this excels in that way. And even though you have Shogun, The Bear, and Baby Reindeer dominating like we all thought they would, although The Bear is a little different, it just still made room for more stuff. And I would love it if that can continue. But the Emmys love a streak, so I don't know if this is going to be an odd twist or the norm from now on.
Question for you. Did it feel like season 3 of The Bear dropping when it did? How do you feel like that impacted voting?
I am incredibly curious about this, and it makes me wonder if they are going to change that process in the future. I will say I think that's why Liza Colin-Zayas won, because her really great episode is in season 3.
Right.
And even though this was a nomination for season 2, same thing happened with Eben Musk-Bacharach in the last Emmys, which were in January. He had that great standout season 2 episode with the Taylor Swift song and Forks, but he was winning for season 1. So there's this weird reverse math that's happening there. I don't know if now Liza Colin-Zayas loses for season 3, even though that's her big episode, because that one will be further in the past. But I think largely, the season 3 dropping, it fell down a little bit in acclaim and made a lot of room for that, The Bear's not really a comedy argument to take hold. And I would imagine that's a huge part of how it didn't win that top prize in the end.
Interesting.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, like are people mixing up season 2 and season 3 when they're thinking about voting? I mean, I had the same question last year when, they were voting on season 1 after season 2 came out.
Totally. Yeah. And it's a good strategy because it makes the show really fresh in voters' minds when the nominations happen. But then the wins, I mean, and a win is a win. I don't think anyone's mad that any of these people have awards. So like maybe it all works out fine in the end. I mean, Elaine, I know you're not as obsessive about like how award shows work as I am and like thinking about, who has hosted the Oscars for the past 10 years or whatever. But I am curious about how you felt about kind of the showcraft of the whole thing, about Eugene and Dan Levy as hosts or the archetype tributes or anything. Like, do you feel like it worked as a show?
I saw some criticism online about the TV archetypes. For me, it worked. I love it. Maybe I'm just basic that way. As your average American viewer, I was like, yeah, TV dads, TV moms. Like, I get it. Like, the theme was very apparent very quickly. And I appreciate a theme that is clear and that everyone can relate to. And I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, I think that once they're on stage, that theme was really clear, like doctors, cops, like it all makes sense. But the walk up they had to get to be like a TV archetype is a common character we see played. Going back, and like there was so much talking leading up to it.
Yeah.
Whereas with they had like the Happy Days reunion and the West Wing reunion on this one. But back in January, I don't know if you remember, they like did Ally McBeal, they had Martin, they had all these big stage reunions, and you can tell they were kind of trying to play off of some of that energy.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like the concept of an archetype required like an academic dissertation. So maybe now that they've done it once, it can be a little bit more straightforward. But it felt sweaty until like you finally got into the groove of it.
You know what felt really sweaty? That Johnny Walker product placement.
Oh my God.
Can we talk about that for a second?
It like physically hurt to watch.
It was so drawn out. And I was these are all professional actors and professional like directors. Like we should all be able to coordinate this so it runs a little more snappily, right?
I know. And they could have pre-taped it. I realized like you've got Evan Musback with his Emmy there. So like I guess in theory they had to do it live, but like their timing was weird. These two people, Evan Musback and Taylor Zakhar Perez of Red, White, and Royal Blue, like I don't think they know each other. They did not have any energy of people who have ever had a conversation before in their lives.
It had a little bit of a, you guys rehearsed this before, right? Quality to it.
Well, like they kept looking in the camera as if it was like, are we doing this right? Like, are we supposed to be here? It was so strange.
At first, with the looking at the camera, I thought, well, they're trying to pull us in on some joke, right? Like that's what's happening here. But then the punchline never came.
I know. I mean, award shows need to make money. The ratings aren't what they used to be. I'm not opposed in like principle to there being product placement within an award show, but it has to be better than that.
I think we've all kind of collectively come way past of like, oh, are we okay with ads in our things? Because ads are in everything. So I was like, fine, I'm willing to accept the product placement, but make it fun.
Yeah, I remember at the Oscars, I guess 2 years ago, they brought out Melissa McCarthy and Halle Bailey is the star of the Little Mermaid remake that they made. And they like introduced the trailer for The Little Mermaid on the stage at the Oscars, which then led into a commercial break. And that's like Disney within Disney just doing their thing. I remember that feeling kind of gross, but I do think the Johnny Walker thing goes a level beyond.
Well,
like
also because wasn't it the only thing of the night? It was the only in-show ad of the night, right?
I think so.
Like if there had been several of them, then it might have been a little smoother. But because it was literally the only one, it was like, is this a bit? Is this not a bit? Is this an ad? I guess it's an ad.
You know, it was a much more effective ad was having Joshua Jackson present whatever. I don't remember what he presented, but he was on stage and there were all those ads. Yes.
No?
Looking incredible.
Yes.
Whatever it was he was presenting. We don't remember the award, but remember his presence. And then all these commercial breaks for his Dr. Odyssey show, where I guess he's like the doctor on the Love Boat is the concept. And I'm like, I'm so happy to see Joshua Jackson. I'm going to watch that show. So there you go. Having presenters and a ton of commercials is the old-fashioned way to do it. And it worked out great.
But in terms of Eugene and Dan Levy, I loved it. I loved their vibe. I loved the whole, I mean, obviously very easy rapport. And I thought the bits worked. What about you?
Yeah, I really liked their bit in the audience with Eugene Levy in the wrong aisle. Like it was so stupid and so funny at the same time.
I was laughing at it and I was thinking, why am I laughing this hard at this? But it just worked. And I was like, this is perfect. It's so simple and it works. And this is like what in-house comedy is supposed to be, right?
Yeah. They were being like friendly and like none of their jokes were too mean. And they obviously have a great rapport together. I did think their opening monologue, like it felt a little rustier than the rest of it. And the real thing that happened to them, and I wrote about this too, is that immediately after they did their opening monologue, Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez came on stage. And the three of them, like especially Steve Martin and Martin Short, have this like honed vibe. Like they are ready with a joke. They know exactly what to do. They're really comfortable on that stage.
Yeah,
and
ready to roast each other in a feel-good way.
And like, I thought the Levies did great, but it did feel kind of unfair to them to bring the Only Murders people out immediately. Because like, it had been reported that they had been asked to host the Oscars at some point in the past. Like, please let it happen.
Yes,
bring it on.
Next year, please.
Yeah. I mean, we have the Levies host every Emmys and Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez host every Oscars. No one's going to complain. So like there is more than enough room for everybody to be in there.
You want to talk about getting a ratings bump? Let's do it that way.
I know.
Very
Selena
curious
Gomez
to see what those numbers are.
I know. We're recording this before the ratings numbers have come out. I mean, I don't care as much about ratings as I think people in your side of the business do, like knowing how essential they are to it.
We love a number. We love an arbitrary number.
But also like, do you think that the Emmys ratings matters? Like the Emmys are never going to stop. Like they'll probably always be on network TV because they are, so fundamentally tied to TV. Do you see it? Should we sweat over the ratings numbers when they come in?
I think sweating over next day ratings numbers in general when it comes to regular scripted TV is a little silly because so many people wind up watching it on streaming like days later, which is why like the L+7 number becomes the big thing or even the L+30 number. But when it comes to award shows, I feel like it matters in the context of the business in that how many people are paying attention, how much of a boost is it going to give your show after, right? And I was talking to an agent about this last week of like, how much do the Emmys actually matter to TV development? Which feels like kind of a weird question because it's like, well, these are the biggest awards of your business, so shouldn't they matter to what comes next? But a lot of times you kind of see things that win and you're like, that's nice, good for them, but we're going to just keep chugging along and making what we think it is the audience is going to want 2 years from now because it's such like a future-facing process. And somebody I was talking to said, you know what? The Emmys actually mattered in terms of development up until about the pandemic. And I thought that was interesting because that's when, the ratings kind of went all floppy and, things, it was just tough. And then there was that one Emmys, which was basically virtual, that COVID year.
Oh, yeah. Where Schitt's Creek won everything from a rooftop in Canada. And we were very jealous of them. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And this agent I was talking to said, that's kind of when it stopped mattering as much. It's not that they don't matter, but it's just taken on a slightly different significance now.
Yeah. My big question about development in the Emmys is Shogun, which, you had been reporting about how nobody wants any period dramas anymore, kind of right around the same time that Shogun comes out and is a huge hit, which is the proof of the old axiom that nobody knows anything. But it seems really unclear to me if anyone is going to try to copy Shogun. I think you got the reporting that still the only place that would greenlight it is FX, which made it in the first place. Do you think the Emmys make any difference in that calculus?
Well, that's actually the whole topic of this week's Series Business Newsletter. Hey! So thank you for the in-house product placement, Katey.
You're so welcome.
But yeah,
you're not going to give the short answer to spoil it of yes or no.
You know what? I will give you the short answer to spoil it. And the short answer is no, it doesn't really change anything because you know what? We're still in a period of cutting corners. Well, not cutting corners. We're still in a period of cutting budgets right now and trying to keep things lean. And a very expensive, as beautifully produced as it is, period piece is not where the industry is headed, at least not for the next couple of years. I mean, like, give it another few years. You know how these cycles go. Then maybe we'll see another few big period pieces. But yeah, the short answer is like no. But then also when you talk to people, they love to hedge their bets, obviously. And they're like, well, yeah, but never say never. Never say never.
Well, and I think that's where the Hacks victory, I don't think Hacks is an especially cheap show, but, a lot of comedies are, especially if you have a multicam comedy. And so if you have a big, comedy victory, you have people talking about the importance of comedy from stage at the Emmys, and that brings us more multicam shows. Like maybe that is the thing that you can do austerely and still funny and still win. That's kind of a stretch of a connection between Hacks in the future, but who knows what effect it might have.
Well, you know what I thought was interesting is you look at the wins and you have something like Baby Reindeer, which, by the way, do you remember, I think it was in the first Richard Gadd speech, or maybe it was the second one, where he was talking about like, hey, like, I know the industry's in a slump, but like, look, like, these are all the great original things you can create outside of known IP. And like, that was just sort of like, well, here's the thesis for for things going forward of, you've got like these great auteur driven series. You've got these big period pieces. You have, as Paul Downs put it, about Hacks, a show about a woman over 60. And it's like these are not the shows that are in development right now. But maybe should they be?
Yeah. Real quick before we have to lose you, you did go to the ABC Disney after party. They had a lot to celebrate with Shogun and FX. I don't know if they were out there shaking their fists at Hacks. What did you notice there with Bob Iger making his way around until all of a sudden he disappeared from your site?
Oh, yes. Well, I spotted Bob Iger in an extended conversation with John Hamm and then there's John Landgraf talking to Jeremy Allen White. Everybody was in a very celebratory mood. It seemed like the place to be. I did not go to the Netflix or HBO parties after, but I will tell you that it felt like the entire trade press was only at the Disney party. Yes, and it was a very well-attended party. So I think I felt like that was definitely like the place that everybody was celebrating yesterday. And it was nice because I'm sure, at Netflix and HBO, there were also things to celebrate there again. So I don't think any of those parties were ill-attended.
Yeah, no, and HBO, I think they've got The White Lotus coming back. They've got The Last of Us coming back. Like, I don't think their Emmys dominance is at all over. But FX is not something, we thought the FX era of Emmy dominance was over when like the Ryan Murphy shows kind of started drying up. So like, it's good. It feels healthy to have after parties that everyone wants to go to. Like, that's a very shallow metric of an industry, but also feels really true that if there's energy in lots of places, that means that there's good things happening there and it's worth people following.
Absolutely. This was actually the first time I've been to an Emmys party. I've been, on this beat for 5+ years now. But because of the pandemic and then other things, like this is the first time I've actually been to like the post Emmys festivities. And it was interesting to sort of see like, people from other places and other streamers and things, like, are they migrating to this party? Is this the place to be? And that was like one of the metrics I was told to look out for. It certainly seemed like it.
Yeah. God, what an excellent point. All right, we're going to put you on like checking people at the door to make sure to see if they have their HBO employee badge to check into the Disney party. Elaine, thanks for joining me. SAG Awards and Golden Globe TV campaigns are starting up like right now. So we're not done. Like, we're going to be back here talking about Baby Reindeer any minute now. So just buckle up.
Much respect to you on the awards beat. I don't know how you do it.
Okay, I'll be back in a minute with my conversation with the star of Emilia Perez, Karla Sofia Gascon. But first, if you're listening on Spotify, take a look at this week's poll asking you about your thoughts on the Emmy winners. We would love to hear what you think. On the call with Karla Sofia Gascon, I couldn't help but notice that she had this immaculate red manicure, which was clearly a holdover from her visit to the Toronto Film Festival earlier that week. When she was there, she was in full red carpet glam for the film's premiere. But she very quickly told me that it was the rest of her look, which was a baseball hat and a Telluride Film Festival t-shirt, that was much more in line with her actual style. And as soon as our conversation was over, she told me she was going to run off to go get rid of the nails. And that's just one of the many ways that Karla herself is very different from Emilia Perez, who is the character who will introduce her to a lot of audiences around the world. The movie is from French director Jacques Audiard, and he was inspired by the true story of a trans Mexican drug cartel leader, although his film, which is a musical and goes off in all kinds of different directions, is a purely fiction story. Karla actually plays two roles. She plays Emilia before her transition, when she is this gravelly voiced, really terrifying cartel leader. She gives me a sample of how she did that voice in our interview. It's incredible. And then she also plays Emilia after her transition, where she is this impeccably dressed businesswoman pretending to be the cartel leader's long-lost sister. I told you the story has lots of twists to it. So I talked to Karla about how she fought to play both roles, even though Jacques Audiard assumed that as a trans actress, she wouldn't want to play Emilia before her transition. But Karla really wanted to take on that challenge. And it's incredible to hear her describe her confidence in what she's done and how great she is in this role. And clearly, a lot of other people agree, myself included. She and her co-stars Zoe Saldana, Selena Gomez, and Adriana Paz have already shared the Best Actress prize at Cannes for their performances in the film. And I think there are many, many other nominations and awards still to come. As you'll hear, we spoke via a translator, but I do think Karla's incredible sense of humor and occasional sarcasm really comes through, even if, like me, you don't speak Spanish. I was pretty dazzled by her overall. I had a fantastic time talking to her, and I think a lot of people will be too, as Emilia Perez makes its way through festival season and then opens in theaters on November 1st. You can hear it all in my conversation with the star of Emilia Perez, Karla Sofia Gascon. So, Karla, if you don't mind me starting by going back to Cannes, where you accepted the Best Actress award on behalf of yourself and your co-stars, and your speech was so emotional. It's such a wonderful thing to watch. When you look back at that, are you glad you spoke from the heart in that moment? Do you feel like that speech was exactly how you wanted it to go?
Al principio pensaba que...
At first, I thought it was too emotional. I didn't want to see myself on social media. I hate listening to myself, especially when I'm being emotional. But then after a while, I think it was a wonderful moment. I think everything that happened since has been impressive. And I think that sometimes you have to forget everything you have to do and just let the heart speak. And think less about what other people expect of us. And to come back to what we were discussing earlier about red carpets, I think it's all a huge manipulation to have to wear all these tight dresses and hairstyles that look nothing like me. I feel like I'm not myself. I wish I could just go wearing tracksuits or sweats and be comfortable.
Well, then I want to ask about red carpets then. There are many more ahead. Do you have a plan to wear more tracksuits, or are you going to have new looks as you do more events for this movie?
Puede ser que me vaya en
Maybe I'll even wear pajamas or beach shoes or whatever. I don't know for now.
Fashion pajamas. I think that's a real thing. I think.
No. Fashion pijamas, no.
Oh, not fashion.
Normal.
Real pajamas. Okay.
I'm really, ¿cómo estoy? Harta ya. Estoy harta de la tontería.
Well, so at Telluride or Toronto or these events, what do people want to talk to you about when they see this movie? What are questions that you hear a lot?
The people is amazing. The people love the movie, love my acting. But the most amazing and incredible for me is that they continues to ask me the same question. Who plays Manitas? Mm-hmm. And I always say, really? You don't understand? I don't believe. And because it's incredible for me. That is me encuentro realmente maravillada por...
I think what I'm most amazed about is the fact that most people don't realize that I played Manitas. So on the one hand, it's the biggest prize I could have gotten with this movie. It's the biggest recognition I could get. But on the other hand, my ego is like, hey, wait a second. So maybe there are people going out of the movie and not knowing that it was actually me who did Manitas. So it kind of makes me angry.
I know that you had to fight to play Emilia before transition, that Jacques Audiard initially didn't want to ask you to do it. What did you say to him to convince him? What was that argument or that convincing like?
Hice algo a lo que estoy acostumbrada desde hace muchísimos años en la actuación.
I did something that I've been doing for a very long time, ever since I started acting, which is to try to make his job easier. So I just recorded myself on my phone using phone filters, using some beards that I bought in a makeup shop, working on my voice, and a voice that's very different from the voice Manitas has right now. And I sent him those recordings.
Is the voice that we hear for Emilia before transition, is that digitally altered, or is that just your voice to become Manitas?
It's It's my voice.
That's amazing.
Ahora no me sale muy bien porque estoy así en frío, pero
I love dubbing. I love giving my voice to puppets. I actually did that professionally before, and it's actually one of my favorite activities to turn the volume down on TV and put voices to all the different characters. So it's a talent I have, and it's very interesting for an actor to have that. But for this particular character, my inspirations were Marlon Brando and Sylvester Stallone, and I tried to mix their voices to create some kind of potpourri.
Is it Marlon Brando in The Godfather? Is that the movie that he's in?
no, in Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's terrifying.
I speak totally the same way, like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. I like it so much. But
perfect.
it's important. Yes, but my only fear on this part is that to do this like a comedy, no? My voice sound a comedy, and I think that I do this job in the perfect way because everybody is terrorizing with manitas.
You've said that for Jacques Audiard, because you don't speak French, he doesn't speak Spanish, that you would communicate telepathically. What did that look like? What does telepathy look like between an actress and a director on set?
Bueno, pues es una cosa, yo creo que
I think you have a closer connection to some people in general, and I have a deep love for Jacques. We're both very creative, very passionate people. We have a very deep love for our work. But I think mostly what happens with us is that we're both like children on the set. And if you take two children from any nationality playing on the street with the sand or with the mud or whatever, they can perfectly play with each other without understanding each other's language. They don't need it. And I think it was so beautiful to be able to go back to that experience to share those moments without needing language.
Does the singing bring out some of that sense of play? In a musical, I think you get to have bigger feelings. Was the music part of that feeling like kids together on set?
Si te soy sincera, a mí lo de la música no es que me guste mucho.
To be honest, the singing part is not my favorite part. I'm not a big fan of musicals. So it was actually the most difficult part because I'm not a professional singer. And to be honest, I think I won't be remembered for my singing. I'll mostly be remembered for my acting. And I won't be competing with Shakira for the Grammys anytime soon. So I think my biggest job here was to create the character and to, especially the two different sides of him, such a big transformation. And in that, I was accompanied by a huge team. I mean, not only for the singing, for the music, for the makeup, for the movements, the accent. There's a huge team of people who also contributed to creating Manitas and Emilia.
Well, and Jacques also credits you for helping build the character in the script stage and in changing her before you began filming and giving your guidance there. What would you say are some of the most significant things you contributed to Emilia before you even started filming?
Para mí lo más importante es que él me dejara.
For me, the most important thing is that he let me take part in the dialogue. He let me participate. So I won't get into the details of which details were specifically added by me, because I don't think it brings anything to the table or it doesn't bring anything to the movie. But I was very happy to be able to enter into a discussion. And sometimes they told me, shut up, this is very stupid. And some other times they told me, oh, good idea. So I was very happy to be able to help. And I think this movie will make history. I think it's very different. It's unique from all the other movies that are being produced at the moment. And we don't really necessarily realize that right now. But 100 years from now, I think there will be movies made about this movie because it will make history not only in the cinema industry, but because it will change the life of many, many people.
I know that Jacques showed you kind of like a small movie, or before the movie was made, like a video script or something kind of resembling what the movie was going to look like. How much did that look like what the movie actually turned out to be?
No, un audio, sí, teníamos un audio que era como una radionovela hermosa con toda la película narrada.
Yeah, it was an audiobook, a very beautiful audiobook that helped her understand the story and the characters. But it's nothing like the current movie. It's not, which is nothing like the script, which is nothing like what they shot during the whole on the set. So the final result is very, very different from anything they produced before.
Wow. So when you did see the final film, what did you think? Was it was it a surprise to you what the final film looked like?
I say, with the first scenes, when I prefer don't do a spoiler, but the first thing I said in my chair in this theater in Cannes, wow, what a fuck. This is a great movie. No me lo esperaba. I don't wait that.
I didn't expect it.
And I say, Santo Cristo, vamos a hacer historia.
Good God, this is going to make history.
Y otra cosa más. No me van a dar una patada y no voy a salir rodando por las escaleras de Cannes. ¡Viva!
And it looks like I'm not gonna go out of the festival with a kick on the butt. So cheers to that.
Yeah, at Cannes, I think you said you had never won a prize before, and it was so unexpected on that level. Are you getting used to this level of praise and attention and, you know, the congratulations you're getting?
Mira, yo no me lo tomo en serio, no me tomo en serio ni siquiera a mí misma. Me encanta.
I prefer not to take them seriously, and I usually don't take myself even seriously. I try not to focus on the good parts, and I mostly focus on the negative comments because I don't like flattery, and I think as an actor it's not good to be always listening to compliments, and because it doesn't make you evolve, it doesn't make you grow as an actor. I love to get negative feedback and to hear that somebody thought that the movie was shitty, because then I want to get revenge, and that feeling fuels me to do even better. But it looks like now with this movie, I'm not going to be able to exact revenge on anyone, because even the people who don't like the movie say that my work is excellent. So I don't know what I will do with my life.
Y en este aspecto me pasó que estaba en la academia.
And it so happens that recently I was with a big executive who kept telling me, Karla, you're so wonderful. You did such a beautiful job. And I ended up telling her, okay, stop giving me so many compliments, because I'm not used to it and I'm frankly not comfortable. And she told me, okay, I think you're a shitbag and everything you did was shitty. And I said, okay, maybe I prefer the compliments after all.
Well, you also seem to take joy in pushing back at some of the predictable people who don't think that trans people should exist or be in movies, and you've been tweeting about them and pushing back. Do you think you're going to keep doing that? Do you kind of enjoy pushing back against those people who want to be out there and be awful?
Me encanta pelearme con la gente. I like to fight with the others and with the people. I love and the war, but in the good sense, no, in the sense of feelings or words, no. I love this competition, and I think that one thing incredible and amazing, that film create a really fight between the bad and good, the evil, and other things. I thinking that happens with this is the creation of the union with the Latin people. I don't know, but these two sense is really amazing, and I feel that is true. I sense this fight, no, between the people that say, todo es una mierda, no deberíais de existir porque sois horribles y vais contra nosotros.
So to pick up the last part, there's symbolic battle between good and evil, between, on the one hand, people who say, you shouldn't exist, you go against nature, you shouldn't be here, against the people who only defend love. And I have bad news for the first group, which is that in the end, good always wins over evil, because even if evil acts very fast, very efficiently, good acts slowly but surely. And obviously this whole good and evil fight is a metaphor, because in the end it always comes down to the people. It's always a subjective thing.
Well, you've talked about how this film is going to make history. When people talk to you about your performance making history with, just the role itself or awards, do you feel comfortable with that? Is that too much of a compliment, or do you see yourself making history too?
Realmente, si te digo la verdad, es el mejor trabajo que yo he hecho en mi vida y
To be honest, I think it's my best work yet. I don't mean to be immodest, but I'm honestly very proud of it, and I do think it will make history. And I honestly don't see anything that I should have done better in the movie, so I'm very happy with the work I did. And I think the only thing that bothers me and worries me a little bit, but not too much, is that probably 100 years from now, when I will be long gone, they will make a movie about my life and distort everything and change completely the events and the way I am. And the kind of thing that if I look at it now, I would be like, I was nothing like that. But so, yeah, I think that for better or for worse, this is what might happen, but we don't have no way to prove that. So
well,
I'm joking, but I like to say stupidities.
Well, they have to make the movie soon so you can play yourself. I think that's the only way to get it right.
No creo que sea tampoco para hacerla corriendo mañana. Tengo que vivir muchas cosas todavía.
I think I need to go through a lot of experiences, so they shouldn't be doing it so soon.
Fair enough. I know we're running out of time. I hope I see you wear a tracksuit on the red carpet. I really want to see what you would do with your own red carpet style. So please, for all of us, show us what you got.
No sabes las ganas que tengo de hacerlo. No sabes las ganas que tengo.
You have no idea how much I want to do it.
That does it for this week's episode. As promised, next week we'll get back to Oscar season. It is in full swing. This show is edited by Brett Fuchs and co-produced by Brett Fuchs and me. Our theme music is by Dave Gonzalez. Thanks again to my co-host, Elaine Low. Get the Prestige Junkie newsletter by going to theankler.com and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, where you could answer this week's poll. You can subscribe on Apple or wherever else you get your podcasts as well. We will see you next week.